they discovered a shocking prayer that frees homes from hidden evil. Find out how now. Few knew what truly happened that night. The villagers whispered darkly, their faces shadowed by lantern light. They felt a chill seeping through the wooden walls, the oppressive weight of night creeping into their very souls. A knot of fear tightened in their throats, as night after night, strange things unfolded, a child's laughter echoing in empty streets, and old furniture seemed to shift by unseen hands. In the heart of this small town, time stood still, like a dewdrop caught on a spider's web. Long ago, events unfolded that etched a legacy of spiritual turmoil into the cracks of every home. Stories bond into folklore, here tales of ancient prayers that could ward off spirits. Yet, for many, the real heart of darkness remained just whispered fragments of a past too painful to acknowledge. One fateful evening, under a moon draped in thick clouds, young Eli discovered an old, dusty scroll tucked away in his grandfather's attic. His fingers trembled, brushing against the frayed edges of the parchment. It spoke of a prayer, one filled with potent words thought to cleanse homes of the hidden evil lurking in shadows. As Eli read the words aloud, he shivered deeply, feeling an electric pulse in the air around him. What should have been a source of comfort became a dilemma, heavy burden resting on his fragile heart. Was he truly ready to confront this power? The townsfolk had lost so much to fear. Yet could this prayer actually bring healing, or would it awaken more suffering? Eyes watched, simmering with skepticism, others filled with a desperate hope, and as Eli's voice echoed into the night, the candles flickered violently. Shadows danced, and whispers filled the silence, both warning and beckoning him forth. Who could have known that invoking such a prayer would unleash not only the hope for salvation, but the very darkness it sought to defeat? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. As the last syllable of the ancient prayer slipped from Eli's lips, the very fabric of the night shifted. He felt a rush of energy surround him, like a storm gathering strength in the distance. The air turned thick, tinged with both awe and trepidation, as if the heavens themselves had drawn a breath in anticipation. The flickering candles cast long, trembling shadows against the attic walls, dancing to a rhythm unseen. Eli's heart raced. Whispers, barely audible, twisted around him, their meanings just out of reach, like the crest of a wave that constantly eludes the shore. He felt the weight of those who had come before him, the burden of their fears and hopes resting upon his young shoulders. With every rustle of the scroll beneath his fingers, he sensed centuries of turmoil, a spiritual lineage that both terrified and compelled him. What had he invoked? And at what cost? Eli stood at the threshold, peering down into the darkened street below where the flickering lamplights could not chase away the shadows that loomed. The laughter of children, once innocent and joyous, now seemed to echo with a haunting chill. Was this the promise of liberation or the stirring of deeper malevolence? Suddenly, a soft thump echoed from somewhere deep within the house. Eli clenched the scroll tightly, battling a rising tide of fear. Each heartbeat seemed to remind him of the risk he had taken, and yet there was a pull, a draw toward his own vulnerability that whispered of truth and revelation. The air hummed with energy, and no fear clutched his heart. Something else stirred within him, a glimmer of courage, a chance that perhaps this prayer could indeed bring healing. Inevitably, questions began to surface in his mind, swirling with the shadows. What lay behind the mysteries of the scroll? Was it merely a collection of old words, or did it carry the weight of divine truth? His thoughts turned to the elders of the village, those who had succumbed to despair under the drudgery of unanswered cries. They were seeking a savior in the darkness, were they not? Perhaps he could be that catalyst of change. With a newfound resolve, Eli took a step towards the staircase, the ancient scroll held tightly against his chest. He needed to share what he had found. They all needed to understand that fear does not reside only in darkness, but often in not confronting it. The sun may not rise for some, but he longed to kindle the flicker of hope that had dimmed over generations. Descending slowly, each step echoed down the halls, a drumbeat of anticipation that seemed to converge on the hearts of his neighbors. He could already glimpse their faces, etched in worry yet colored with a longing for something more. As Eli reached the door, he paused. The very air around him felt charged. A question lingered on his lips, woven into the very fabric of the night. What truth could be unveiled if they dared to confront the darkness together? Was the scroll a key to enlightenment, or merely a path fraught with danger? In that profound silence, he wondered, could they, united in faith, wrestle the mystery of their pasts into something beautiful? And as the door creaked open to the world beyond, Eli stepped out into the shadows, his heart pounding with the weight of an uncharted journey ahead. As Eli stepped into the cool night, the air seemed alive, vibrating with an energy that reached beyond the surface of reality. Each breath he took drew in the scent of damp earth and blooming night flowers, yet it was tinged with something more profound, an echo of prayerful hopes sown into the very fabric of the town. He glanced back at the flickering candles, tiny beacons that fought against the encroaching darkness, flickers of promise against the weight of looming despair. His feet carried him through the alleys where shadows bent reluctantly from the glow of the lamplights, revealing the faces of the villagers, hunched in quiet deliberation, their worries woven deep in the lines of their brows. As he approached the gathering, their murmurs caught Ellis' attention. They spoke in low tones, the weight of their shared fear palpable, murmuring of strange occurrences, crops failing unexpectedly, livestock behaving as if haunted, and families drifting further apart as the darkness encroached on their lives. A sense of heaviness enveloped them all, and a glimmer of doubt flickered within him. Would they even listen? Eli. A familiar voice called out. It was Miriam, her eyes bright yet filled with concern. We have been looking for you. Where have you been? I found something, he replied, his voice steady despite the tremor of uncertainty in his heart. A scroll. A prayer that may help us confront the darkness that plagues us. The crowd, intrigued yet cautious, began to gather closer. Their eyes reflected both hope and skepticism. What could a young boy offer in the face of such overwhelming shadows? He could sense their hearts wrestling with the same question that had gnawed at his own mind. Could this ancient wisdom really hold the key to their troubles? What do you mean? How can words on a page change anything? Asked Jonah, a neighbor known for his pragmatism. The question hung heavy in the air, waiting for an answer. Eli drew a deep breath, feeling the weight of centuries rest upon him. I believe it can, if we choose to believe in it together. In the midst of our darkness, there is a power in unity. The scroll speaks of confronting fears, naming what haunts us. It requires each of us, as a community, to face our hidden evils. His words had landed like gentle raindrops on parched earth, but they were met with a moment of hesitation. He could see the flickers of hope mingling with fear. What if confronting their buried fears opened wounds that had yet to heal? What if the darkness is too great for our light? Miriam's voice trembled, capturing the essence of their collective doubt. What if it consumes us? At that moment, Ellis' heart pounded as clarity washed over him. It is in the very act of confronting our fears that we reclaim our power, he said, his voice rising with unexplainable fervor. The pain of the past must be recognized, acknowledged. Only then can we transform that darkness into light. We cannot fight shadows alone, but together we can illuminate the truth. Eli felt the intensity of their gazes, a mixture of fear and curiosity drawing them closer to him. He knew that to embrace the scroll's power, They would need to share what they had buried deep within. What stories did they carry? What shadows shaped their lives? The unspoken secrets of their past could either bind them in despair, or, once revealed, could free them into the light. As the villagers whispered amongst themselves, Eli caught a breath of excitement coursing through the group. "Will you stand with me?" he asked, his voice steady. "Will we confront what ails us together?" In that pregnant space of time, silence enveloped them as they considered the depths of his offer. Eli sensed the hearts around him shifting, wrestling with the possibilities and the risks. Could they find strength in vulnerability? Could they share their struggles and, in doing so, rediscover hope? And in that moment of waiting, a deeper question surfaced in Ella's heart. What power lies dormant within shared truths, and what liberation could be found if they decided to unveil the veils of their hidden struggles, step boldly toward the pains that haunted their nights, and grasp the light that might follow? As Eli stood before the gathering, the stillness enveloping them felt as if the very air conspired to hold their breath, waiting for the revelation yet to unfold. The shadows danced at their feet, momentarily forgotten as their gazes locked onto Eli, a flicker of hope igniting within their hearts. Yet beyond the glimmer, questions swirled like fallen leaves caught in an autumn breeze. Each villager was haunted by their own specters, and Eli sensed the fear pulsating through the crowd, a complex tapestry of shared lives woven together with threads of sorrow. The moon cast its silvery light, illuminating the faces around him, some weary, some resolute, but all burdened by an unspoken history that spanned generations. As Eli awaited their decision, he felt an unexplainable force guiding him, whispering truths that sought to awaken the spirits within. "We must begin, not with the confrontations, but with our stories," he urged softly, his words holding the weight of all that had been muted. "Let us go first to the roots, the moments when light first began to wane." There was a stillness that ensued, and then an elderly woman, Rachel, stepped forward, her hands trembling as she clutched a faded shawl around her shoulders. "When I was a child," she began, "my family faced a drought that consumed our fields. We prayed fervently, oh how we prayed! Yet the heavens seemed to mock our pleas. My father lost hope, and in his despair, he cast aside all but anger." A collective sigh rippled through the crowd, recognizing the familiar strain of loss and the harsh toll it took on the heart. "I lost my father that season," she continued, her voice barely above a whisper. "He turned to drink, unable to bear the weight of unfulfilled hopes. I carried the guilt, wondering if my childish prayers were not enough, if somehow I had failed him. I never spoke of it, but it has haunted me ever since." As Rachel's tears fell, others in the crowd exchanged glances, each face reflecting an understanding of grief that felt akin to a collective wound. Eli sensed the walls that had long guarded their hearts beginning to tremble. "What if we shared our burdens one by one?" Eli suggested gently. "Imagine if together we could lift the veils of our past." One by one, voices emerged from the shadows. Jonah recounted the night he lost a brother to a fateful storm, lamenting over the years that had alienated him from family, where silence drowned out communication. Miriam spoke of a betrayal that had severed friendships, the shadows of doubt whispering within her that those closest to her had turned away. Each story was a thread, weaving a deeper understanding of the darkness that enveloped them. Time lost its footing as the stories flowed, the pain of each soul echoing through the shared village air, intertwining with Ella's own heart, expanding and deepening the atmosphere around them. With every truth shared, Eli felt the heaviness of despair lift, even if just slightly. A tentative light began to flicker, illuminating the shadows within their hearts. "Look," he urged as they shared their stories, like offerings laid before a sacred fire. "In our vulnerability lies strength. Each time we share, we chip away at the darkness that seeks to bind us. we must cast light on our hidden truths to dismantle the very evils that plague our homes. An unspoken agreement seemed to settle within the crowd, their fear transforming gradually into a collective resolve. And yet, Eli sensed an impending shadow still loomed. The scroll's knowledge was potent, but understanding the next step brought a weighty uncertainty. As the villagers began to grasp the essence of their shared experience, Eli paused. What binds our hearts and calls us to rise together is also rooted in fear. What will our darkness reveal about ourselves when we delve deeper? And can a connection forged in honesty truly cast out that which has long tormented our spirit? The air thickened with contemplation of both freedom and potential, a reminder that freeing themselves might also mean facing emotional demons long shunned into the folds of their memories. And amidst this mixture of hope and apprehension, Eli looked upon their faces. Would they embrace the next step, daring to tread further into the light, knowing the risks it could impose? As dawn began to break, casting gentle hues of gold and rose across the village, Eli stood amid the sighs and murmurings of the crowd. Hope mingled with trepidation. The stories shared were like small seeds buried deep in the soil of communal grief, now yearning for sunlight to awaken their roots. But Eli knew the journey was far from complete. Today, he began, his voice steady yet soft, we have stepped into the realm of truth, and the truth often compels us toward actions we might not yet fully grasp. Our stories have been the fire that warms us, but what shall we do with the embers that remain? With every pair of eyes turned toward him, Eli felt the weight of expectations. They waited for guidance, for some sort of revelation that might stitch together the fragmented pieces of their lives, the threads they had spun out of their shared suffering. Rachel's tale of drought, what was it but a thirst for more than water? Jonah's loss, did it not carve out a desire for connection in the void of absence? Miriam's betrayal, was it not rooted in the longing for genuine trust? Can we not see ourselves woven together by a common longing for restoration? Eli implored, his words ringing like a bell through the crisp morning air. With each raised eyebrow and each furrowed brow, Eli felt that he was peeling back layers of the villagers' hearts, exposing a raw essence that echoed the conversations among the spirits of their ancestors. Yet, he could not ignore the undercurrent of uncertainty, the lingering shadows that seemed to cling tighter when confronted with such illuminating truths. Today, we must engage in a sacred practice anew, prayer, Eli proposed, and a flicker of apprehension passed through the crowd. He sensed their hesitance, and it compelled him to lean further into his message. But not the prayers of asking for intervention upon our trials, rather, prayers that offer our burdens up, releasing the pain into the wind, allowing the heavens to draw them away. He knelt then, hands extended, palms open toward the earth. Join me as we pray for the strength to let go, to reveal what lies hidden among us, to seek forgiveness not merely for ourselves but for one another. Slowly, one by one, they joined in, kneeling alongside him, hearts open and trembling like leaves in the breeze. The words unfurling from their lips echoed throughout the stillness, harmonizing with the whispers of creation. Eli closed his eyes, but opened his mind to the presence enveloping them, sensing the very fibers of connection strengthening in the unseen. As prayers drifted, the air around them began to swell with a palpable energy, a current that prickled like static on their skin. Eli felt a deep stirring in his spirit, a quiet revelation beginning to form within the tapestry of the moment. It spoke of faith not just in the unseen, but faith in their capacity to uncover the truth that binds and heals. But amid this sacred atmosphere, a chilling thought flickered at the back of Eli's mind. Would their words truly cast out the hidden evils lurking in the shadowed corners of their hearts? As they cried out, "Deliver us and heal us," Eli wondered if mere utterance could unveil dark truths long buried, or if there were forces at play that sought to twist their desires against them. He sensed the tension rise, palpable and heavy. What if the prayers they spoke unknowingly stirred dormant spirits within their lives, awakening that which had long lain still? Were they inviting liberation or reckoning? As silence returned after their fervent cries, Eli opened his eyes to behold the shift among them. Yet amidst their quietude lay an unspoken question, heavy in the air. Would they uncover more about their hidden fears than they ever wished to confront? And would redemption await them on the other side of their revelations? As the last echoes of their prayers faded into the dawn, a peculiar tranquility settled over the gathering, yet the stillness felt charged with an undercurrent of apprehension. Eli rose slowly, still sensing the invisible weight that enveloped the hearts of the villagers. It was then that a figure approached him, an elderly man wrapped in the garb of a wanderer, his gaze piercing and knowing, as if he were both an observer and a participant in the unseen drama unfolding around them. "Eli," the man began, his voice like the rustling of ancient leaves, "your heart is bold, and your words carry the weight of courage. But know this prayer is only as potent as the intention that fuels it. Have the people sought to truly unveil what lies lodged within, or have they merely scratched the surface?" Eli found himself both intrigued and disconcerted by the wanderer's question. "We have laid our burdens before the heavens," he replied, attempting to maintain the conviction behind his resolve, "and so it shall be revealed as necessary." The wanderer nodded, but what if the very act of unearthing truth awakens resentments, grudges begotten over time? What if these unspoken evils awaken more than mere reflection? The villagers around them began to murmur, some looking puzzled, while others appeared restless. Eli understood the wanderer's intent was not to sow doubt, but to provoke deeper thought. Do we understand the depth of what we have set in motion? Healing often demands an unveiling, a stripping away of facades. A woman, her eyes alight with curiosity, stepped forward. If we unearth our fears, will we not also find the roots of love and redemption within them? Isn't the act of confrontation a step toward liberation? Indeed, the wanderer acknowledged, but liberation is not absence of pain. Rather, it is to embrace the whole tapestry, with threads of joy and sorrow intertwined. The question lies not just in what we seek to find, but what we are willing to confront in the process of discovery. The air grew thick with an atmosphere of anticipation, while Eli gathered his thoughts, recognizing that the moment required clarity. The revelation we seek, a prayer that cleanses our homes from hidden evils. They come with an invitation to revisit the places in our hearts we've long left untouched. As he spoke, images of their shared past flickered through Ella's mind, moments bound by love as well as hardship. What evils had they harbored in silence? What grievances had turned to bitter roots beneath their skin? He felt a swell of urgency. They could not tread lightly if they wished for true healing. "Let us gather," Eli proposed, sensing the vibrancy of purpose igniting the air once more. "In the next few days, we shall meet under the stars, when the veil between our world and the unseen is thinnest. We will share our stories, unfiltered and raw, holding nothing back, and touching upon the heart of our collective truth." As murmurs of agreement rippled through the crowd, the vision of vulnerability began to take shape. Each villager, from the eldest matriarch to the youngest child, carried within them burdens too heavy to bear alone any longer. Eli discerned that while the journey might be fraught with discomfort, it also harbored the keys to their liberation. Yet, as the sun continued its ascent, a profound question lingered in Ella's heart, like a distant raindrop, a tiny promise yet to burst free. If they unearthed their long-buried truths, would they be able to handle the revelations? Would the wounds that surfaced lead to healing, or would they merely reopen scars better left sealed? What lay hidden among the layers of their own hearts, waiting to be released in the shimmering light of honesty? As the sun dipped low on the horizon, casting long shadows over the village, anticipation permeated the air. Ella's heart beat with a rhythm that echoed the pulse of the gathering community. They had set the date for their meeting beneath the stars, where they would confront the truths that lay buried for far too long. The villagers buzzed with a mixture of excitement and trepidation, each person wrestling with the thoughts that churned within. On the eve of their gathering, Eli found himself wandering to the edge of the woods, drawn to the whispers of the trees that seemed to beckon him toward the unseen. The evening air held an electric stillness as twilight wrapped itself around him, and the first stars began to twinkle like distant hopes. Here, in solitude, Eli pondered the wanderer's words. They lingered like a riddle in his mind. Finding a large stone nestled among the roots of an ancient tree, Eli sat down, closing his eyes, and feeling the weight of responsibility settle over him. What if the truths unearthed prompted conflict rather than understanding? Would the act of sharing their burdens bring solace, or else unearth resentments that had festered like undetected wounds? As he meditated on these concerns, Eli became aware of a soft rustle in the underbrush. A small animal, perhaps a rabbit or a fawn, made its way cautiously into the clearing, sniffing the air in gentle curiosity. It was a reminder of the world that thrived in the margins of their concerns, a world where both fear and life intertwined. Even in the wild, confrontation was necessary for survival, the shadows of danger only overshadowing the light of existence. Suddenly, Eli recalled a story his grandmother told him of old, how the people of their lineage once gathered under a similar sky to unburden their hearts before the divine. They had prayed for protection and guidance, and in doing so, discovered not only the evils lurking around them, but also those interwoven within their very essence. They didn't awaken pleased comforts, but profoundly unsettling truths, where hearts were laid bare and reconciliation strained but ultimately transformative. What would it take for his villagers, for himself, to meet the calls of vulnerability with an unwavering spirit? He realized that genuine healing demanded more than simple acts of confession. It required an honest encounter, both with light and with darkness. As night enveloped him, Eli felt the soft caress of a breeze, carrying the fragrance of earth and growth. He understood the divine mystery unfolding before him, and although he felt the weight of uncertainty, it was a path laid out in front of him, a path towards rediscovery barred by the shadows of complacence. Returning to the village, the stars overhead blazing as if holding their breath in anticipation, Eli knew that whatever would unfold during their gathering, it was not merely an event, but a crucible for their souls. What sparks of revelation awaited in those shared moments? Would they emerge more unified, or would the darkness they unearthed unravel them? The question of whether their hearts could bear the raw truth of their past stirred within his spirit a flickering flame of hope battling against the cool draft of fear. What needed to be confronted for their healing to begin, and could their communal journey through pain also lead to unexpected grace? In this blend of anticipation and dread, Eli found himself poised at the precipice of transformation, not wholly knowing where the path would lead, yet yearning for purpose with every fiber of his being. As the night deepened its embrace, Eli returned to the village, the rhythmic sound of his footsteps echoing softly against the cobblestones. The flickering flames of bonfires began to dance in the distance, illuminating faces turned skyward, lost in thought or quiet prayer. The atmosphere was thick with unspoken fears and long-held hopes, binding the villagers together in an unbreakable web of shared existence. Eli crossed the threshold into the gathering area, where the weight of anticipation hung like a palpable shroud. Each person was ensconced in their own inner world, eyes reflecting the firelight and flickering shadows. He could see the tension woven into their expressions, each face a canvas painted with stories of struggle, and for a moment, the air crackled not only with the warmth of the fire, but with the electric anticipation of what was to come. The elder, Naomi, stood poised to lead the evening. As she raised her hands, the murmurs quieted, and attention shifted fully toward her, as if the night had focused its gaze upon one singular moment. "We have come together not merely to share our burdens," she began, her voice steady, "but to uncover a prayer long forgotten, a prayer that our ancestors spoke in times of desperation, a call to release the bound spirits dwelling in our homes and hearts." A hush fell over the crowd, reverberating with intrigue. Eli felt his heart quicken. This was more than he had anticipated. He knew snippets of the prayer, whispered among the older folk on nights like these, a protective chant passed down through generations. But to witness its revival was something else entirely. Naomi spoke of the hidden evils that ensnared their community, not only external adversities, but those internal struggles that turned neighbor against neighbor, sowing discord where harmony should have thrived. "We must confront the darkness within us," she declared, "and in doing so, we liberate ourselves from its grip." This isn't merely a plea, it is a proclamation of intent, a revelation of light in our darkest corners. Eli felt the urgency of her words pierce through the hesitant hearts around him. How many had suffered in silence, hidden behind facades of strength? The villagers had long evaded speaking of their fears, of the things that haunted them in the stillness of their homes. But tonight, under this expanse of shimmering stars, they would invoke something powerful. As Naomi led them through the ancient words, Eli repeated them with fervor, feeling a strange warmth ripple through him, a sense of unity igniting amidst the group. Each voice that joined created a tapestry of hope, weaving together tales of vulnerability shared, old pains recalled, and shadows acknowledged. The atmosphere began to shift, infused with an energy that felt sacred, a balm for the collective wounds borne through generations. Yet, as the final echoes of the prayer faded into the night, a chilling silence fell. A heavy stillness replaced their once buoyant energy, leaving a lingering weight on their souls. Eli scanned the gathered faces, now marked by uncertainty. Had the prayer unearthed more than they anticipated? What had they awakened within themselves, or worse, within the very place they called home? The wind stirred, carrying with it an unsettling whisper that hung in the air like a warning. Eli felt a knot tighten within him, an apprehensive realization that the prayer might have disturbed forces that were perhaps best left undisturbed. He caught Naomi's gaze, eyes wide and brimming with recognition that they might not have fully grasped the depths of what they had conjured. What lay ahead was unknown. The ancient prayer had been only a beckoning flicker of light placed before an expansive unknown. In their pursuit of healing, had they also invited chaos? Eli felt a profound question rising. In seeking truth, could they bear the shadows it revealed, or had they unleashed a force they could not comprehend? Would their act of courage unite, or fracture the very bonds they sought to mend? Only time and their responses would tell. As dawn began to break over the horizon, the first light filtered through the branches of the ancient trees, casting dappled shadows on the ground where the villagers gathered. Eli stood at the edge of the circle, feeling the weight of the night's revelations pressing heavily on his shoulders. The flickering flames of the bonfires had long since died down, leaving only the memory of warmth, while an uncomfortable chill set in, drawing the villagers closer together, united by an unspoken tension. Naomi, still in her place among the elders, closed her eyes momentarily, as if seeking clarity from the heavens above. Her brow furrowed as memories stirred, memories of her own ancestors who had faced hardships not unlike their own. The rooted connection to their forebears felt heavier than before, as their unspoken words hung thickly in the air. "We must not shy away from the signs," she finally said, breaking the silence that enveloped them. "We have awakened something, and it is imperative we understand it." Eli stepped forward, his voice trembling yet earnest. "What did we uncover last night, Naomi? Are we truly prepared to face what we have brought forth?" His question echoed in the hearts of those present, reverberating through their thoughts and fears. As if sensing the urgency, the villagers did not shy away from their reality, their eyes now reflecting something deeper than mere confusion and eager readiness to confront the unknown. Naomi nodded gravely. The prayer was a key, Eli. A key meant to unlock the doors to our own hearts and recognize the demons behind them. We have called for liberation, but with liberation comes responsibility. We must tread carefully and discern the shadows we face. Are they truly external forces, or merely the reflections of our own hidden fears? Murmurs of agreement arose, yet amongst them stood trepidation. The villagers recognized the darkness within their pasts, the grudges buried deep, the bitterness that had festered. They had celebrated the hope of restoration the prayer promised, Yet now this new understanding of their reality weighed heavily on their spirits. As the sun rose higher, its rays spread warmth and light, illuminating a figure that now approached the gathering. It was young Samuel, who had spent the night at the edge of the woods, often dismissed as a wanderer. He seemed different, eyes wide with an otherworldly knowledge, as if he traveled not only through the forest but through realms unknown. "Elders, I have seen," he spoke, his voice carrying a trembling urgency. "I wandered far last night, and felt a shift in the very essence of our land. Dark clouds gathered over our village. A tempest formed from the sorrows that dwell within." Fear rippled through the crowd at his words, yet was quickly replaced by curiosity. "What do you mean, Samuel?" another voice called, breaking the general stillness. "What dark tempest?" "There are spirits that linger," he replied, "spirits of those who could not find peace, burdened by the unspoken wrongs of our ancestors. They have been awakened, just as we have stirred our own sorrows. They wander now, seeking release. In our search for healing, we must confront what they have left behind. Otherwise, we risk their wrath." A whisper rose among the villagers, a confluence of fear and fascination. Eli felt a shiver run down his spine. Had they truly unearthed more than mere memories? The prayer, intended to liberate, now seemed a catalyst for chaos. What would the spirits of their past reveal? Would they guide them to understanding and peace, or would they bring forth greater trials? Naomi stood resolute, recognizing the seriousness of the moment. Our path forward requires unity. We must come together, heart and spirit, to appease that which we have awakened. This is a journey of both the living and the departed. We cannot retreat. We must hold vigil and offer what is needed so that all souls may heal. Time seemed suspended as Eli contemplated their next steps. The spark had ignited, and now they faced the weight of what it meant to embrace both light and shadow. Would they find courage within to confront the evils hidden beneath the surface of their lives? Would the spirits guide them toward redemption, or would they remain lost, caught in a cycle of despair? As he gazed at the sun rising higher, Eli felt a distant echo of hope mingled with dread. The day of reckoning lay ahead of them. Would they be willing to engage with the shadows they summoned forth? What awaited them in this place where past and present intertwined? As the sun rose and bathed the village in golden light, the sense of urgency deepened. Eli gathered the villagers, their faces etched with the weight of shared fears and collective history. They stood, unified yet fragile, within the embrace of their realistic tapestry woven with threadbare stories of both anguish and resilience. Today we face those who have wandered into our lives, the echoes of our ancestors longing for reconciliation, Naomi proclaimed, her voice steady but imbued with the gravity of their undertaking. It is our sacred duty to listen, to honor the pain they carried in silence, and, in turn, heal the wounds that have festered among us. With heavy hearts, the villagers moved beyond the threshold of familiar paths and into the woods that shielded their village. Eli led them through the shadows, stepping cautiously yet resolutely, feeling a tremor course through the ground beneath him, as if the earth itself murmured warnings stirring deep within. With each step, their shared breaths intertwined, their hearts beating as one, resonating with the uncertainty of what lay ahead. Arriving at a clearing veiled in mist, Eli sensed a palpable energy radiating from the very air around them. This was the threshold between worlds, a liminal space where the veil was thin, where their ancestors lingered, caught within the grief of unrecognized truths. "Here," he whispered, the words escaping his lips as if by divine prompting. "This is a place where our stories can be untangled, where we can confront both our fears and the spirits amongst us. As they formed a circle, the villagers joined hands, intertwining their fears and hopes into a living, breathing entity. Eli took a deep breath, feeling the past brushing against him with each heartbeat. Let us remember that healing requires arduous honesty. We are not here to blame, but to liberate not just ourselves, but those who came before us, he began, his voice rising above the rustling leaves. "Let this gathering honor their pain, for it is our pain too, intertwined like roots beneath our feet." The villagers closed their eyes, and Eli began to speak their ancestors' names aloud, weaving prayers into the fabric of the morning air. "We call upon those who walk these lands before us," he implored. "Let your voices breathe life into our silent sorrows, guide us toward understanding, and may our hearts remain open to the truths still hidden in the shadows." As he spoke, a silence fell, heavy yet expectant. The air shimmered, and a low, ethereal hum resonated within the clearing, harmonizing with the heartbeat of the earth as if responding to their call. Eli's heart raced. Visions began to emerge, a flicker of figures wrapped in translucent light, their faces softened by time, but lined with the weight of unrelieved burdens. "Do you hear them?" A voice threaded through the air like a soft breeze. It belonged to Rachel, who opened her eyes, her spirit ignited by an understanding that transcended fear. "They have come to share," she said, her gaze lifting toward the forms glimmering in the mist, "but we must be willing to listen. We must become the willing bearers of their truths." Gathering courage, Eli stepped forward. "We wish to hear your stories, to see you as you once were, the joys, the regrets, the unspoken moments that bound us to our past." He hesitated then, a flicker of doubt in his heart. What if the tales were too burdensome? What if hearing them unraveled the threads of hope he had worked to weave? But as if reading his thoughts, the spirits began to drift closer, their essences swirling together, melding with those present. "Healing does not come without its cost," one of the figures whispered, her voice like a silvery thread against the fabric of the air. "But in sharing, you cleanse not only yourselves but also us, and give us freedom to ascend." With trembling hands, Eli reached out, feeling the chill of the spirit brush against his fingers, an invitation to dismantle the fear that had gripped his heart. "Then let us share," he declared, determination igniting anew. Villager after villager began to recount their histories of loss, the betrayals, the lingering disappointments that haunted their very souls. Each story flowed with a rhythm of rawness, a collective unveiling that echoed through the clearing. The ancient spirits listened, nodding in silent understanding, and Eli felt the weight of the grief released from their bodies, breaking like waves crashing against the shore. And then, in a powerful moment, the air stilled. Eli knew then that their shared vulnerability had summoned something even more potent, a profound light essence of forgiveness and redemption. Each emotional truth unveiled seemed to lift the veil separating the spirits from the living, a bridge of compassion forming between both realms. Together, Eli began, his voice steady yet charged, "We carry the legacy of our pasts. Let us remove the shackles of this inherited despair, and ignite a flame of renewal." He turned toward the spirits with fervor. "For every burden shared, we reclaim a piece of the light we've lost." As if in response, the figures glimmered brighter, their faces softening into smiles filled with love and relief. The spirits shifted closer, their essences intertwining with the living, granting the villagers an unexpected gift, the insight that healing is the truest form of love made manifest. The clearing erupted with a glow, vibrant and expansive. Eli felt the warmth of hope enveloping him like a soft embrace, intermingled with the joy of release. Tears welled in his eyes as he looked around at the villagers, who now stood shoulder to shoulder, bathed in light, a living testament to the power of unity and shared truth. As the sun reached its zenith, casting brilliant rays through the trees, Eli understood that their act of courage had not only connected their hearts to those lost to time, but had rooted them deeper into the very fabric of their community. In confronting hidden evils, they had unearthed not just past darkness, but a blessing, a promise of resilience, healing, and reconnection. Each villager felt a shift, a release as spirits whispered words of thanks in the rustle of leaves, their unseen burdens lifting alongside the villagers' pain, a cycle finally broken. And Eli, standing in the clearing amid the remnants of the sacred ritual, realized that they were now bearers of light, the guardians of both their history and their future.as ribbons of hope danced through the air. Eli knew this was just the beginning. By unearthing their truths and facing the shadows together, they had embarked on an inevitable journey toward unbreakable unity, revealing that true courage means not just confronting darkness, but embracing the light that arises from it.in that radiant moment of clarity. Their stories echoed through the trees, a promise woven into the air, a revelation that the shadows would always dance at the edges of their lives. But it was their shared light that would truly illuminate the path ahead. And with this collective awakening, Eli understood that faith lies not in the absence of shadows, but in the unwavering will to walk forward together into the brilliance of a new dawn.